Jesse War Radio. Welcome to Jesse War Radio. Jesse War Radio is dedicated to peering behind the veil of esoteric iconology and symbolism and is available from jessewar.com. Each week we interview authors, historians, thinkers and artists in an effort to discern the truth behind symbols, myths, icons and allegories. New episodes are posted every Friday. Members of Jesse War Radio gain access to the second hour of every show. Find out more about becoming a supporting member of Jesse War Radio by clicking on the subscribe link in the top navigation menu at jessewar.com. Thank you for tuning in.
Today we speak with artist Alison Edwards. Alison is a prominent painter in Glastonbury, England. She paints in a beautiful and fluid style, which is at times otherworldly and perhaps reminiscent of the Nabis, Impressionists and Neo-Impressionists, but with a freshness which places her paintings firmly in the new Age of Aquarius. We begin by discussing her background and influences. Hi Ali, it's great to speak with you. How are you doing today?
Oh, it's really nice here. Everything's cool and not too cold.
Yeah, and you live in Glastonbury in Somerset, England.
Yes.
It's an amazing spiritual place.
Yes. Yes, we've got the Tor, the Chalice Well, the Abbey.
Do you walk a lot in the countryside around Glastonbury?
I walk up the Tor fairly occasionally. I walk in the Abbey quite frequently. And I walk along the levels every day with Buster.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, Buster's your beautiful dog that I'm a good friend of.
Yes.
That's great. And then are you able to take dogs in the Glastonbury Abbey as well?
You have to keep them on a lead.
Oh, right. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
So, you know what? So I've never actually asked you about your background. So I'm wondering about just your general background, but then also I am aware that your mother was an illustrator. Is that correct? Or an artist?
Well, she did go to art school when she was a student, but then she was forced to drop out because of the war and went into a mainline job and didn't really finish her, didn't really have a career in it in the end. So, but she was always really interested in art and encouraged me a lot when I was very small. And yes, and still she did it as a hobby, kind of.
And where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in a lot of different places because my father travelled, and I was born in London, and my maternal grandmother lived in Bedford, and we often stayed there when returning to England. So I was very fond of my grandmother, and and then I had to go to boarding school once I was about 10.
Oh.
So, which I don't have very good memories of, actually. I don't think I really enjoyed it much. I was there for about 6 or 7 years.
Your family, I recall you telling me that your family was, your mother was basically of a higher social status than your father, and that created a sort of rift in the family. Is that the case or no?
Well, sort of. Although my father got on very well with my maternal grandma. They were both Scots. And so they had a kind of bond. So there was that. And it was a bit like that. I mean, I just think that some of my family were were snobs, really.
Mm-hmm. What made them snobs, and what was their kind of view of the world, do you think?
Because in the last century, my family set up a series of factories making steam engines and farm ploughs and things for farming. And they became very rich, I suppose, doing that. And Yeah, you can still see museum pieces with my family name on. And I guess then that they went down from a high status, and they feel that they have to try and have high standards. I don't know,
Right,
something
right.
like that.
Like Brideshead Revisited.
Yes.
And what is it? Edwards? Is that the name of the company? Edwards?
No, Blackstone is my mother's maiden name.
Blackstone, and they were industrialists. They produced metal goods, metal farming equipment.
Yes.
Wow, that's really interesting. And what do you know how far back they went producing those products?
Well, I think they started in the 19th century.
That's really interesting. And then you also have
And they were originally American too.
they were American.
See. Yes, they came over from America and became industrialists.
And the Blackstone name, it came from America.
Apparently, yes.
Really? Around what year do you think, or what century?
In the 1780 something, I think, roughly.
Right. Wow.
I think so.
Right after the American Revolution, then.
Yeah, my cousin wrote a book about the family. So, I mean, you might be able to find it. Google it somewhere.
I will look it up.
And I got all this information from that book that he wrote. There's some nice photographs in it, like very old photographs.
Well, that's really incredible sounding. And you also have one of your cousins is an MP or something like that.
Well, she was in the House of Lords, but she's a professor in a university in Kent. But she may have retired now. I haven't asked her what she's been doing lately.
What's her name?
Talk to her. Tessa Blackstone.
Blackstone, right? Okay, that's interesting. All right, so about your mother and art. I mean, were there any conflicts with her wanting to be an artist? Do you know if she was if her father or parents opposed her being an artist?
Well, I don't think her parents opposed her, but I get the impression that at that time in history, people were made to feel that they should do something which is more practical because it was a time of crisis.
Right. World War II.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen one of her illustrations and it was really charming. It's utterly charming. Such a beautiful little piece. I think it was of two children or something like that, maybe on a beach or something like that.
Yes. I've still got it hanging in the hall.
Yeah. Do you have other illustrations of hers?
I've got a few other pictures of hers, yeah.
And to what extent do you think that informed your own work or provided the impetus or inspiration for you to be an artist yourself?
Oh, I think it was fundamental, completely. I don't think I would have looked in that direction at all had it not been for her.
And when did you start painting? How old were you when you started painting or just drawing or doing general art?
Well, she let me play around with her oil paints when I was, I think I was 7 or 8.
Excellent.
So, yes. And I painted a picture of the river outside the window because we lived along the front by the river in Bedford then with my grandmother, like I was talking to you about before. Mm-hmm. So that was my first oil painting, which is quite amazing, really, because it was very young.
Yeah, so it sounds like she really encouraged you then.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's wonderful. And what did your father think about it? You mentioned that he was away a lot. Was he a traveling businessman?
No, he was a quantity surveyor with a company. So he would do contracts, and most of them were about 18 months. So we'd be in a place settled for anything up to 2 years.
Was that hard as a child to endure?
Well, it did mean that my education was kind of compromised, if you like.
Yeah, how's that? Just because you couldn't have the continuity?
Yes.
Right. And what did you what interested you as a child, and what subjects?
Well, I've always been interested in all of the arts, not just painting, really, but writing, poetry, dance, literature, dramatic arts. Yeah.
That's interesting. Do you feel like your upbringing and your family history gave you the ability to cultivate yourself, to concentrate on cultivating yourself? In other words, do you think that has to do anything with class and the class system in England?
It probably does, yeah. I don't think you can escape from it, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not necessarily, it wouldn't necessarily be a good thing to escape from, would it, in this case? It sounds like it was good, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, you can say that maybe I had more privileges than some other people. Yeah.
Well, now in today's political environment, privilege has become a bad word, but I don't think that it was always a bad word. It wasn't. I mean, it was just a sort of neutral concept, really, you know. And I think cultivation may very well depend on a class system, you know. So, but getting away from that topic, what is your main inspiration for your art now, and what has it been before? What did it start out as? For example, the paintings that I've seen of yours are definitely inspired, I think, by symbolism, although you stated before we were recording that you're not a symbolist. Although I think that your paintings definitely have symbols in them sometimes, or often. But if you're not a symbolist, that's fine. That's neither here nor there. I'm just asking. But there's also, I think there's a certain degree of spiritual influence on your paintings. And obviously no one is completely immune to their environment. And you live in Glastonbury, which is a center of New Age thinking. So I think that I can see those influences certainly in your art. And then there's probably, I'm thinking that there's probably a sort of illustration influence coming from your mother. I mean, obviously that's just an assumption or assuming, but I think it's probably natural that it would be there. But then there's this general core strength in your art that is also in your personality. I know you personally, so I can say that. And then also, I think that there may be an influence from the Nabis and Gauguin. I may be incorrect there, but that's what I'm guessing.
Yeah, I do feel really. I do really love the Impressionists and that era. So I like the way they use colour, so I'm very influenced by them. I have to admit that. Yeah, a lot of people say that they see symbols in my art, but I can really honestly say that it's not a conscious thing. I would sort of say that I'm more intuitive, and I allow myself to be guided, and that's the sort of symbolism that arrives there has come through me somehow, if that is okay. And,
absolutely, yeah.
It's not really something that I do consciously.
And how did you arrive at that ability? Because that really requires an ability to be a channel, you know, because you want to be ideally as clear a channel as possible. So how have you have you grown to allow yourself to be as clear a channel as you can be?
Well, there are a lot of people who channel stuff here, and I think that probably it's just something that happens. Channeling stuff in Glastonbury is second nature, isn't it, really?
Yeah,
Everybody
definitely.
channels here. Everybody's a poet, a musician, or an artist almost, or a healer of some description. Nearly everyone.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah, and people often will claim that there's a lot of charlatanism in environments like Glastonbury, because there are other places like Glastonbury, like I'm thinking Santa Fe, New Mexico, Mount Shasta in California, and then there's somewhere in Colorado like that, and then also down near Tintagel, somewhere around there, Saint something, I can't remember what it's called. There's a witchcraft museum, so I think there's a kind of new age area around there, and then there's another one in Devon too, I think somewhere. But people often say that there's a lot of charlatanism in those kinds of environments. But I judge from my own experience in Glastonbury, there is real magic, and it's very powerful and beautiful magic in Glastonbury. And it's nothing to be dismissed or scoffed at. It's true magic, you know. So
yeah, and a lot of people are drawn here to it. But I have to say that I do think there are some charlatans here as well.
Well, I believe it. Of course, there are many, many charlatans, and there's a lot of healers, like you said, and you know, a lot of those people are charlatans. I mean, just flat out. But what do you think about that?
It's unfortunate when you meet one.
Yeah, tell me about some experiences with that.
Wow. I
just don't name names.
Yes. Well, I met one. Last summer. Really, and I found it quite upsetting, really, because although, because I triggered something in her, and it was just, I guess people clash every so often wherever you are, and just have different values, and you clash with people. So I clashed with somebody. And it's just unpleasant, really, when it happens.
What specifically did you clash on? Some sort of moral difference?
Oh, I don't know, really. It's best forgotten about, I would say.
Okay, that's fine.
but at the same time, I just felt that for me, she wasn't very real.
Yeah,
she didn't accept me fully somehow.
Right. Do you go to any kinds of workshops in Glastonbury, or like sort of events? Do you know what I'm talking about, where they'll have like a seminar or whatever?
No, I don't. No, I don't any longer, because I'm just too wrapped up in my own family life, and I did used to do them when I first came here, but I guess the novelty wears off after a bit, or you just don't give them such high priority, and you get on with what's most important to you.
But you have exhibited your art in Glastonbury at several places, right?
Yeah, I used to be exhibiting quite a lot. Lately, there's not so much art being sold in Glastonbury. I think the nature of the place is that it goes through phases, and there was a phase where there were a lot of artists and there were a lot of people catering for artists. Like, we had quite a few galleries in town, and it was easy to put your art out there. And the last couple of years, that's probably gone into another a different kind of topic. Maybe it's musicians or something that are being catered for now, or maybe it's just a bad time politically for everybody. I'm not sure, but certainly we're not selling so much art in Glastonbury at the moment as we were maybe 5 years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you think that has anything to do with any kind of? You mentioned politics. I think I heard that the entire city or town council was replaced, right, by sort of leftists or something to that
Green
effect.
councillors. We've got 7 green councillors, which I think is really, really fun. I love it. And I know quite a few of them, and I like them all, and they're really interesting characters. But I think they've got a hard time with the Tories in power.
And also, there's also some sort of strange bank evacuation where the banks are all leaving Glastonbury.
Yes.
Do you think when I heard that, it sounded like it might be some sort of experiment, because there has been previously there had been a Glastonbury specific currency, and it sounds like maybe the banks are trying to get that going. And I think Glastonbury would be the perfect experimental environment for such a thing.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, no, I haven't heard of that, but definitely everybody's wondering if there's some kind of conspiracy behind it.
How really? Have you heard anything? What have they said?
Well, no, I haven't heard anything that I particularly believe, but people are muttering different things.
Oh, really? Well, that's cool. All right. And have you been up to the White Spring lately?
No, afraid I haven't.
No.
It's just been so cold and wet here.
Yeah.
It's right on the other side of town.
Yeah. Okay, so getting back to your painting, what you said that you haven't been painting as much recently, and just because you're busy doing other things. But
Yeah.
what kind of directions have you been heading in your painting?
Well, I'm really just waiting to make this move, which is I'm moving in 3 months. And I'm moving with another woman who's the same age as me and who's also an artist. So we're hoping to set up a studio somewhere on the continent and, where there's more sunlight and everything. So that'll be a new phase for me.
That's
really
fantastic. What are you leaving that house permanently?
Yeah.
So where do you think you might be moving to? Seville or somewhere around there?
No. Well, I've got 3 places in mind at the moment, and one is near to Barcelona.
Nice.
And that's because my youngest daughter is already working out there, teaching English as a foreign language, and it would be nice if we were close. And then I'm going to look in Orgiva, which has a very big community of other English people or other European people other than Spanish. So that might suit. Or part of me would like to be in the south, because that's the part of Spain that I've been visiting for quite a long time now. And I was talking to a friend in the street yesterday, and she wants to move to the Canaries. So I've recently sort of thought that I might look over there.
The other artist that you might share a studio with wants to move to the Canaries?
No, just another friend, a friend in Glastonbury.
As far as the light is concerned, it's definitely brighter down here. Although I was living in Brighton before, and Brighton's really bright too. But the light's definitely really beautiful here. And as far as the difference between Catalonia and southern Spain, there's a major difference in the heat factor. Basically, right now it's nice and it's pretty cool, and it's verging on cold, and sometimes it is cold. So you actually have seasons kind of here, at least seasonal temperature flux. So that between, say, October and I'm guessing April, the weather's very tolerable, so that you're not having to suffer heat all year round, because it's nice to think of being in the heat, but when you have to endure it the entire year all around, like you would in Malaga or whatever, then I'm not sure that you'd end up liking it as much. So that's another consideration.
No, I agree with you. I mean, there's probably, instead of having a horrible winter that you find really depressing, you'd have 2 months in the summer, which would be stifling.
Exactly.
But if I go to the Canaries, there's enough sea breeze there. Probably it wouldn't be nearly so bad.
Yeah, that's what they call it, the eternal spring in the Canaries.
Yes.
But the only thing is, I think it'd be limited. I was thinking about the Canaries too, but it's just, I think that space-wise, it'd be really, it might get a little claustrophobic just being on an island. But who knows? I don't know.
No, I don't. But she made me interested in it. It's just a new idea. I was only talking about it yesterday. But so I haven't really thought about it that much, but it did catch my interest.
That's fantastic. And it's kind of a personal question, but So are you going to be able to stay like indefinitely, or what's the situation,
Yes,
or
that's
you'll
what
go
I want to
seasonally?
do. I want to stay indefinitely. I want to
Fantastic.
make a
Yeah.
permanent move. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Awesome. That's great. Let me ask you some questions that are only marginally related to your art, and I would say that, like, what are your spiritual beliefs or just thoughts after having lived in Glastonbury for how many years have you lived in Glastonbury?
16.
So after that amount of time in Glastonbury, how has that affected you? Because Glastonbury can be a very positive, beautiful, magical environment, like I've said before. So what have you gained positive things from having lived there?
Um, I think
Right now, you just want to get out. I know, so, but you know, but try to think some positive things. I'd love to hear.
um, well, I think it makes you it makes you very aware of certain um, personalities. You know, you have to you learn how to deal with very strong personalities here. There's a lot of strong personalities. So that's one thing it teaches you. Um, I can't. I feel as if I'm still far too close to it. I'm still
Right.
too involved in it, and you can't see the wood for the trees.
Yeah, yeah, I understand.
I
Yeah.
think on reflection, I might see what I've learnt here better, actually.
That's interesting you say that there are strong personalities there because as an American, Glastonbury is definitely the place that I felt like I fit in the most in the UK, where most people tend to be reserved, you know, and where I'm obviously a bombastic, enthusiastic Yank, you know. So I actually I really did fit in Glastonbury a lot better, you know, because people are pretty much more forthright, at least in their charlatanism, you know. But it's just such a beautiful environment, and I grew up in that kind of cult environment too, like new age type thing. So it was really a healthy experience for me that I really miss. You know, so I'm
Yeah.
asking you about it.
Oh, I really miss you here too.
And Buster looks like he's doing great too.
Yeah. Did you see that nice photo I took of him?
Yeah, he looks so handsome.
Yes,
Yeah,
he's looking really good, wasn't he?
and his girlfriend, Rosie.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
great. What about the social aspects of Glastonbury? I guess we're talking a lot about Glastonbury, but I think that's okay because it's an interesting place. The social aspects of Glastonbury, are you going to miss them, or you're just like you've had enough of it?
Um. Oh wow. Well, even though I'm moving away, I think that probably I'll find somewhere with quite a lot of similarities to Glastonbury, in that it'll have some kind of alternative community, and therefore there'll be things there that are very much the same, and I will sort of find my second home there, if you follow.
Yeah. Are there places that you know of in Spain that are, like you said, alternative communities?
Yes, well, this place in Orgiva, near Orgiva, there's a lot of alternative people living there. So that's one place that I'm giving quite a lot of thought to. I haven't visited it before, so I've got no idea. But I already know someone here in Glastonbury who goes there a lot.
Where is that? What is that near?
It's not far from Malaga. It's inland from Malaga.
Oh, interesting. All right. It's beautiful inland from Malaga. It's very epic, like mountains, stuff like that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they have a big marketplace where people meet, and it's just full of, old hippies, really.
That's cool. And do you remember Mick and Jules, who used to park their trailer near Draco Turn?
No.
They come down in Spain too. They winter in Spain.
Ah. Oh, I think I could say that my art, since I've And well, I think I did visit Spain a couple of times while you were here, but I've been a lot more since you left. And I think I'm beginning to see a lot of kind of Spanish light and color and influence coming through in my paintings that wasn't there before. Um, I think so. So I think the light and the climate over there has already inspired my art, if you like.
Yeah, I see that. I see that in your more recent works. I do. Yeah. And what has been your favorite painting? The painting that you're most proud of?
Well, I think that's actually been a downfall because I was very proud of that painting I did of the of the cave with a sort of Magdalene painting.
Yes, yeah.
And
that was incredible. That was genuinely incredible. Yeah.
Because it was the first oil I'd done, because I'd been painting in acrylics before then. But there was a kind of extraordinary clash of personalities around me painting that painting, which was really difficult, and it felt like I got kind of stuck because I'd painted this painting and all the implications behind it were not completely fully understood. I don't know, by me possibly as well as anybody else, but and somehow I couldn't reproduce. I couldn't find my way forward from there. I fell into a kind of, and I wondered whether it was my feeling of pride that got me into that schmuck. But I just went into a fully frustrating period after that. And yes, and I'm trying to sort of, I don't understand why really. The person that bought the painting and the person who was in the role of teaching me at the time, because I went to, and I had lessons from this Greek man. I don't know if you ever met him, Yanis.
I might have.
Yeah. I went to him and I painted that painting with his instruction, you see, and then the person who bought it off me and Yanis himself, two people who didn't get along with each other, and I somehow felt drawn into this kind of friction between these two people inadvertently because of that, which sounds very bizarre, but it's what I felt or what I feel. And but that's typical of Glastonbury as well.
Yes.
But that's the less positive side of Glastonbury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you think that helped the painting become as dynamic as it is and beautiful?
What do you mean?
That conflict that you were enduring, maybe it edged it further.
No, because that was after I'd finished.
Oh,
it.
right, okay.
Yeah.
And how large was that painting?
It wasn't very big. It was only about 7 by 7 square.
What inspired it?
Well, I recently met Anaya Sophia. I don't know if you know of her. She's a spiritual teacher, and I met her when I was traveling in France, and I thought she's an incredible wild and wacky character, and she's amazing. And she does sacred tours in the Cathar region of France.
Does she?
Yes, and she's very, very, very interesting. And she was doing a whole thing on sacred caves in France at the time. And so I felt that's what I mean about channeling. I felt that was directly coming from her. She was doing this work in these caves on the Magdalene in France, and I painted this cave with a Magdalene figure in it at the same time.
You know, I'm actually going to Carcassonne and Rennes-le-Château in 3 weeks.
Oh, well, you should get in touch with her and pay her a visit.
I'd like to, yeah. And I really am interested. I'm specifically going to Carcassonne to learn about the Cathars and visit any kind of Cathar places.
Well, she'd be the most amazing person to talk to because she knows so much about it, and she's lovely. She really is.
That sounds serendipitous. Yeah,
she's a beautiful soul.
Yeah, that's great. And Rennes-le-Château is one of the centers, like Glastonbury, of sort of New Age occultism. You know.
Yes.
Ali, can you let us know where people can find your work on the internet?
Well, I was on Redbubble for a while, and other than that, I'm just on Facebook under my own name.
And what's the address for Facebook? Do you know?
The Green Turtle.
Okay. The Green Turtles.
That's my email address.
Oh, right.
So, because there's hundreds of Alison Edwards, I've got a very common name. And so if you were to look up Alison Edwards and then look up the Green Turtle, that would pinpoint me.
Okay, great. Okay, and I'll leave a link also to your Facebook page so that people can see your work, and I'll post some of your works too.
Okay.
Okay, thanks very much. So let's take a break, and then we'll come back for hour 2 of our program with Alison Edwards.
Thank you for listening to Hour 1 of Jesse War Radio. We hope that you have enjoyed this program and found it informative. Stay tuned and check back each Friday for a new episode. Please like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Jesse War and follow us on Twitter @Jesse War, all one word. Members can access Hour 2 of all shows in the Members Archive at jessewar.com. If you haven't yet considered becoming a member of Jesse War Radio, please click on the subscribe link in the top navigation bar at jessewar.com, where you can register for access to the Members Archive, where both hours of all shows are available. Jesse War Radio is where we keep on peering further and further behind the veil of esoteric iconology and symbolism, with a new show every Friday. Farewell until next time.